Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast here every Tuesday and Friday. I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luke Owen, DAD. And in today's episode, we're going to be going through Goldberg's WWE retirement plans.
We're also going to be reviewing AEW Summer Blockbuster, the 4-hour epic that they put on.
You don't want to swear right at the start of the episode this week?
Not this time, no. I'm not going to call it Cockbuster like you did last week.
Yeah.
And then we'll be talking about, we're going to open with, in fact, this story that we haven't actually covered in the news this week, which is about this. It's an AEW story, but it's not really about AEW. It's more about Warner Brothers Discovery and them splitting up a lot of their assets and how that could then have an effect on AEW.
It's the biggest thing that could happen to AEW's future and life in the long run. The idea that actually the biggest threat to AEW's existence isn't WWE, it's the network they rely on broadcasting them and their big money deals. However, I just did want to do this very brief story before, because happy 50th birthday to Brian Alvarez.
I know, right? Not that Dave Meltzer remembered.
30 years of the F4W on 30 years of the F4 weekly newsletter.
F4W, yeah.
And also 20 years of the website itself. Well done, Brian Alvarez. But yes, I've got the transcript of the episode of Wrestling Observer Radio for that day. Because one thing on Wrestling Observer Radio, if you only listen to us and not to Brian and Dave, is that every episode, when there's 100 news stories to cover, Dave wants to open it with, oh, well, you know what today is? Yeah. It's the 42nd anniversary of Bruno Sammartino versus Lou Thez.
Yeah. It's this angle from CMLL that no one remembers.
It was a big thing in the Carolinas. So he's always got this encyclopedic knowledge. Or it would have been the 83rd birthday of Ricky Choshu or something like that. And it opens with Brian going, we've got a lot of news to get into here today. I can't believe... And then Dave just goes, long show. Because he's talking about AEW Dynamite. And then Brian goes, I can't believe that of all the days, you didn't say, do you know what today is? And Meltzer goes, what's today? Brian, you don't know what today is. Dave, is it your birthday? Brian, Dave, today is my 50th birthday. Do you know what else that means? Dave, it means you're out of the 18 to 49 demo.
I mean, it's good. It's a good joke.
That was right. He covered that. The embarrassment of not knowing his co-host's hugely significant birthday, the anniversary of his newsletter, and the anniversary of the website that they're broadcasting from.
Yeah.
But he got in a ratings joke.
It's so good.
Yeah, well done.
The Alvarez thing and Figure 4 and all this sort of stuff, I know a lot of people feel the passage of time by like, man, the Nexus angle was 15 years ago. And you sort of feel like I can't believe it was 15 years ago because I remember it so vividly. I don't think anything hits me as much as hearing that Brian Alvarez has turned 50. And it's 20 years worth of the joint venture of Figure 4 and the Wrestling Observer coming together to be one website and all of these sorts of things. I remember Dave talking about his kid when he was a child, and now Dave's kid is getting married. That's the passage of time that I feel.
Yeah, and we had the pleasure of meeting them both. They sat in this studio with us last year for All In Weekend, and Brian Alvarez looks good for 50.
He is.
Wow.
Yeah. He's like my wife hated me listening to Wrestling Observer Radio in the house because she found Brian Alvarez's voice quite annoying. I've always liked Brian Alvarez.
He's got a lovely voice.
I know, but she's like, she doesn't like a lot of American podcasters, and she doesn't like a lot of the podcasters that I listen to. She thinks they've got very grating voices. I think it's more about they're talking about topics she doesn't care about.
Probably.
But she then saw a picture of Brian Alvarez, and she was like, I don't like the fact that I don't like his voice because he is fit.
Yeah, he's a fit. It sounds weird that we're just calling Brian Alvarez fit now because we do kind of know him.
I mean, yeah, you say that we sort of know. I don't think he would know us.
Oh, he recognised us at the Rev Pro show a couple of days after.
Yeah, but that's because
I think
it was a couple of days later.
I think he recognised us. He might have just thought we were very friendly fans.
And actually, it wasn't even a couple. It was like the day. It was the same day.
It was the day.
So it probably would have recognized us then. I think if I walked up to him now, he would just be like, oh, hey, man. And
it'd be really nice about it, though.
Be super nice about it, and just assume I'm going to ask him about TNA.
Well, yep. Happy birthday, Brian Alvarez, in all your different anniversaries there. But yes, the ratings gag was a good way to segue into the fate of AEW. So this is, a big business story, a big media business story, and that trickles down to our little niche of wrestling, because Warner Bros. Discovery. Warner Brothers, I feel like Warner Brothers is my company. You know, I'm not a Disney kid.
Because you're a DC guy.
I'm not a Disney kid. I'm a Looney Tunes. I loved Animaniacs. I loved Daffy Duck as a kid. I was like, I don't care about all this Disney stuff. What's the McScrooge? What are
Scrooge
they?
McDuck.
DuckTales.
DuckTales, yeah.
I can take it or leave it. I know you love it, but I was a Daffy Duck guy. With my ducks.
I was also more Warner Brothers as a child because I loved Looney Tunes, Animaniacs, Tiny Toon Adventures, Batman the Animated Series, where BTAS and all this sort of stuff. Pinky and the Brain. That was like I never watched the Disney Channel. I didn't have it for starters, but a lot of the stuff that I watched because there's the Saturday
Cartoon Network. That is owned by Warner Bros.
Which I also didn't have, but my Saturday morning show on CITV was like they only showed Warner Brothers cartoons. So they showed like Tasmania and Animaniacs and Tiny Toon Adventures. So I never really saw any of the Disney stuff. But like DuckTales, I've got a lot of affinity for. But I'm more of a Warner Brothers kid than I am a Disney kid.
And I think if you're like, I never really considered myself a Team Disney or Team Warner Bros. What does that mean? And I think the way I see it is Disney is for lamos who enjoy emotional schmaltz and ultimately reinforcing a capitalist worldview, which is fine. I'm a bit of a capitalist myself, but like it is like Disney shoving it down kids' throats, whereas Warner Bros. Has a chaotic streak.
Yeah,
there is anarchy within those teams, and of course Warner Bros. Also owns HBO, like all the big, great creator-led series. Really, it's an auteur-driven company. I feel I'm sort of obsessed over. I do love the business of Warner Bros. And as I do Disney, we both do. We've read a lot of books on Disney, and they are more like, here's the house style.
Yeah,
do it our way. Whereas Warner Bros. Is like, how can we break cartoons?
Yeah, but even like from a business aspect, what they will do is they will be like, okay, what IPs have we got? Let's just do those IPs. Because they're in a bit of a tricky position at the moment. Whereas because Disney, under Bob Iger, just hoovered up all of the IPs, Warner Brothers have been like, what have we got? Well, we've got Harry Potter, Lego, and DC. Huge. And
Lego?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like they don't own Lego?
They don't own Lego, but they have the IP of Lego in terms of they can make Lego movies. And, the Lego movie was a big hit, but then Lego Movie 2 was not as big of a hit. And Lego Movie Batman this was not the big franchise they thought it would be. It's all right, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. That'll be no, that isn't working for us either. It's all right, we'll do HBO Max. Oh, no, that isn't really working for us either.
Hey, it's getting there. But they win all the awards. White Lotus. Last of Us, they're making all the best TV out there.
It's just no one's signing up for their streaming platform, or less people are signing up for their streaming platform because they don't have things like Disney have got Bluey. Like I know I'm saying this as a parent, but that is a huge draw for and like they're also getting
Bluey's a big star.
Bluey is a massive draw for Disney Plus, and like The Simpsons is a massive. Do you know what draws viewers on Disney Plus? It's not the Disney produced shows. It's not the Marvel produced shows. It's the Simpsons, and it's Bluey.
It's Lilo and Stitch from 2002.
I don't even think it's things like that.
That was in the top 10 over the weekend.
Well, that's because the new movie's out, the remake's out. But like, it's always The Simpsons. I think is the most streamed thing, and then Bluey's like the second most streamed thing they have. Do you know what they've also just got? Cocomelon. Like that is going to be massive for Disney Plus and HBO Max. While it does have prestige shows that are actually good, they are not as big of a draw as just throwing a kid in front of a TV being like, this will entertain you for 7 minutes.
And this is the rub. There is a reason we're talking so in-depthly about the differences between Disney and Warner Bros. And it's because Disney, yes, I do believe they do stifle creativity with an all-encompassing, suffocating house style.
Agreed.
And sometimes it's very good in Marvel, but, ultimately it gets a bit annoying. But that has been very successful for them because that is a very safe business practice. Warner Bros. Is just a history of messes because they are more like they do take more risks, they are more creator led, but they also just never get the business right.
No.
And they go through all these mergers. Like WCW was AOL Time Warner,
Yes.
right?
So
And that merging of those two companies in the noughties is what killed WCW.
I was going to bring this up later on after we cover this story, because I'm not saying this is what is going to come to pass, but what effectively killed WCW was the merger, and Jamie Kellner, who was part of that merger, being like, I don't like wrestling, let's not have that on anymore. Mm-hmm. And that is really what WCW was, a dying brand anyway, because they lost so much money in 99, lost so much, even more money in 2000, was having a very bad 2001. But because of those three things, Jamie Kellner was like, this isn't making any money, get rid. And also, I don't like wrestling. It looks bad on our TV stations. Get rid.
It's crazy how the fate of really big wrestling companies doesn't so much rely on their big stars or how hot their storylines are. It's just one executive in a room of a different company at the top of a TV network that goes, no, let's not have that next year.
Yeah.
And then that crumbled WCW. So here we are, 25 years later, and about 5 years after what is widely seen as a disastrous merger between Warner Bros. Between Warner Bros. And Discovery.
Yeah.
Discovery was headed up by a guy called David Zaslav. You probably heard his name a lot in the AEW rights negotiations last year.
And if you're a fan of movies, I'd want to see those movies, but...
So he sort of did this Warner Bros. Discovery merger, which is kind of, people have described it as a snake trying to eat an elephant. And the elephant is this beautiful Warner Bros. Archive and creative legacy, and there's Discovery, which mostly just makes trash reality TV shows, yet it has somehow consumed the elephant. But you just know that elephant's going to burst out of the snake eventually.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened, because David Zaslav and Discovery took on tens of billions of dollars of debt to finance that merger. And it was never going to work. And also, because it's such a big single company, it has confusing narratives really to investors. Sorry to get so businessy here. And that is like, oh, well, we've got the streaming service and the IP, and we're seeing growth here. That's good. But one other half of their business, the cable, traditional, old media style, is losing. It's declining stuff. It's still very profitable. That's what people seem to forget when we talk about ratings of like, oh yeah, TV ratings are down 7% generally year on year. Still way more profitable than the streaming stuff.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this with WWE over the last, 10 plus years or so. When we're talking about this, is that they were making so much more money off of the TV rights thing. Like that used to be a small part of their business, and actually it was the house show business. That was what was really keeping all these companies and merchandise. And actually, that is, while still important, the TV rights are way more important, even though TV ratings 10, 15 years ago were so much higher for WWE. I mean, I'm talking about like pre-Netflix stuff, even though on USA Network, they were getting 5 million viewers a week, 4 million viewers a week. By the tail end of their USA run, they were getting 1.5 million viewers a week. But they were also making 10 times more money than they were 10 years ago.
As were USA Network.
Yeah.
But, they weren't making 10 times more money than they were.
I'm just making, like, in general terms.
In terms of the actual TV networks, they're still making money.
Yeah.
They are declining. They are not struggling, which is sort of a misconception.
I should say as well, they're spending sort of 10 times as much, because they will give WWE more money to have them on than they would have done 10, 15 years ago.
So this is probably going to be a common trend over the next couple of years, as more and more of these quite bloated media organizations try and balance this. Well, one half of our business is in decline, and the other half of our business is, well, actually losing money, but investors see it as more exciting because they see the future of growth. While over here, this is seen as an old failing thing. Bad bank versus good bank, they call it. So let's just demerge. This happened with Comcast already this year, and at the start of this week, Warner Bros. Discovery announced that they are going to split into, I believe this is correct, Warner Bros. Streaming and Studios, aka Cool S Word. This is where HBO is. This is where Warner Bros. Pictures is. This is where all the cool IP is. It's where the Max streaming service is. It's where David Zaslav he will continue to head that up because he wants the cool stuff.
Yes. But unless he actually wants to release it. Because that's the Zaslav story at the moment. Is like, yeah, I'll make this thing. Actually, I don't want to release that because we can do it as a tax write-off.
Well, look, I agree. There is a huge reason for this, which is, and I don't. It's hard not to say, well, this is the situation they're in, because they have tens of billions of dollars of debt. They need to cut jobs. They need to do weird accounting practices like that. It's frustrating, but that's what this merger is based on. Yeah, it is what it is, annoyingly. But then the other side is essentially the old S word. This is called Warner Bros. Global Networks, which will be the debt-saddled cable business, Discovery, CNN, and TNT.
Yeah.
Now, TNT is, of course, where AEW has their rights with.
Yeah, the TNT and TBS.
TNT and TBS. And, well, all of Warner Bros. Discovery, really, because they are also on HBO Max quite famously at the start of this year. And AEW's deal goes through to 2027. All of this demerger stuff doesn't happen until this time next year. Yeah. So it is a year away. So no one has any idea how this is going to shake out, how it's going to affect AEW. There might be no effect at all. And it just, when the 2027 deal comes due, like up in 2027, then AEW can just negotiate with these two companies and have exactly the same arrangement where we're on Max over here and we're on the cable channels over here.
Or we're just exclusively on Max, or which will probably be, a more direction that people are going to go into, is just going, rather than relying on traditional cable media, is going to these streaming platforms. That's where WWE is sort of seeing this success at the moment and the big money deal that they've got over there. Or maybe try and do a split deal where we're on this, which is what they've got at the moment. Or, and this is, more of a wilder pick for them, they go elsewhere. Because they could just like, all right, our deal is up here. Tony Khan seems to be quite a loyal guy. Like when he does his interviews and stuff, it's like, we've always had this relationship with TBS. We've always had this relationship with Warner Bros. Discovery. We'd like to keep up that relationship. A traditional man. It's the August Bank Holiday weekend. We have to do a show in London.
The women's fatal four-way.
Exactly. It's tradition every year, apart from last year or this year, in fact. But like, we'll see at the Memorial Day weekend. We're going to do Double or Nothing in Vegas. He was trying to keep that as a tradition going as well. So he's kind of a loyal guy in that sense. But, I mean, like, Meltzer's got a pretty good write-up, actually, about this, which I'll just read for you. Where it says, the actual separation will go into effect sometime in mid-2026. But as far as long-term of AEW, this is a gigantic story filled with a lot of questions and no answers. It's possible it could have little effect in the big picture, and it's not expected to have any impact on AEW over the short term. If AEW's television and streaming results are both considered positive in 2027, when decisions regarding a new deal would be made, positive results could also put AEW in position with multiple bidders at that point. If not, the ramifications could be bigger and could affect the entire future of the company. So that's the idea of, if TV ratings are as stable as they currently are, or actually, I shouldn't say stable, are as positive as they currently are. I know a lot of people point to, those ratings are down, they're not where they were 5 years ago. I'll be honest with you, no one's ratings are where they were 5 years ago because a lot of things have changed over the last 5 years. But their TV ratings are still massively profitable for them and are very positive for them. So if they can keep those and take those to another network and be like, we can get this for you, they might be able to get another deal elsewhere.
I think that's obviously a possibility, and it's a year and a half away. Anything can happen. I think it's unlikely, though, because of Tony Khan's respected tradition. And also, I've always been fascinated by this fact. I believe it's a fact. We don't know how much equity they have. Warner Bros. Have a stake in AEW.
Yeah, they don't
ownership stake.
They don't own AEW, which I think a lot of people sort of misread that to be. Like, Tony Khan owns AEW, but yeah, Warner Brothers, I believe, and has been reported multiple times over, has an equity stake.
It is in Warner Bros. Best interests to give AEW a good deal because it sort of all feeds the ecosystem. And if we're moving into a world where these platforms or media companies want to own the IP outright or have really long licenses in terms of Harry Potter, then why would, in a couple of years, Warner Bros. Just not make an offer to buy AEW?
That's exactly it, yeah.
Let's take out the rest, and then you are just on our we can stream you on Max. The pay-per-view business is just all ours. That's a good boost for Max. And we'll license you to our partner company for the cable channels.
It's absolutely a possibility. Because like with WCW, the difference between WCW and AEW is that WCW was not owned by Eric Bischoff. It was owned by Ted Turner. It was owned by Turner Networks. Like they created it. They were like, we want this, so let's put it on. And so when they had the merger and Jamie Kellner looked at the books, was like, I don't like this. Why are we doing it? Shut it down. That's when Bischoff and Fusion Media tried to buy WCW. And in the end, it was Vince McMahon that bought WCW off of Turner. And it basically was ended up being a fire sale, more or less. But AEW was owned by Tony Khan. And even if they decide, and they've always said this is the positive of AEW, if they lose the TV deal, because Tony Khan is bankrolling it with his billions of dollars, they'll just keep going. It's not like if they lose the TV deal, they will just shut down in the way that WCW basically just shut down. They could just keep running shows. They will just run shows and just figure it out as they go along. Kind of actually with TNA. When TNA lost losing their TV deals, or in the TV deal between one going towards Spike, they just put the episodes of Impact on their website.
But at the later stage of TNA, when it was Anthem, Anthem literally bought a TV channel to put Impact on. I'd also point out Zaslav is a huge figure in this. David Zaslav is the guy who was a huge part in the new AEW deal, and him being at the head of one of these entities, I think is a good sign for Tony Khan, because it's not like a new guy is going to come in like a Jamie Kellner and say, why have we got this here? No, Zaslav wants to be in control of all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I imagine he would want to keep this relationship going. Just two other things actually on this. So I guess a lot of people in the States are probably like, well, TNT Sports is quite a established institution in America. Not really over here. Well, that had a brief run.
Because they took over BT Sport.
But that seems to be affected a lot by this, because it seems like that is going to go into the traditional cable business, and maybe the sports presence on HBO Max might be reduced because of that. But AEW isn't considered sports, even though it's in the sports section of Max. It is seen in-house as entertainment.
Yeah, it's that weird line that wrestling always seems to have to tread.
And the other thing, just on the global networks bit, so the old business, I don't want anyone to think this is like, oh, they're just dumping this bit of the business and to let it slowly die and run away. Because from what I've sort of researched and figured out, it is still hugely profitable. Scott Galloway's got a great take on this on the media podcast, Pivot, the Media and Tech podcast, where he said, what you'll probably see over the next 5 years, because these cable networks are profitable, is that you'll get a few consolidations between them. So not this, but imagine if the Comcast cable company merged with the Warner Bros. Cable company, as they are both spun off. That probably won't happen, but just imagine as an example. Then they can share all the backroom assets and consolidate costs.
Yeah.
So rather than have 1,000 people in the Warner Bros. News team and 1,000 people in the the Comcast news team, maybe you just have 1,200 people between them. So you cut 800 people.
Yeah.
And then that just cheapens costs, keeps it more profitable. The idea is, if cable is declining 7-8% every year, if you can cut costs 9% every year, it's a profitable thing.
Yeah. The other avenues to look down on this, and this is, we probably won't want to fall down this rabbit hole because we've got other things we want to talk about today, and it's also a topic that I don't think anyone really is going to be able to figure out because it's such an unknown quantity at the moment. Streaming platforms don't make any money. Streaming platforms, every single person streaming platform loses money. There's only so long you can keep doing something that loses money. Disney Plus is the only one I would say, like, it actually doesn't matter that theirs loses money because that's the least important thing to them.
It's an advert for the theme parks.
The theme parks is where they make their money. So as long as they have this advert over here that gets people to go to the theme parks, then that's fine. It doesn't matter that this is losing money over here because you're making so much more money over here. But if you don't have a theme park, that's, propping up the rest of the thing that you're using as an advert for, why would you keep doing this? And like the streaming bubble might burst, and then we will go back to traditional TV or traditional cable. But it's such an unknown quantity at the moment. We don't it could happen in 2 years' time. It could happen in 10 years' time.
Well, we here at WrestleTalk are supported by our Patreons. Everything we do is supported by you guys. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you very much to our wonderful pledge hammers, Max Kurt Wallen.
The Batsman, Nathan Batty.
Probably better than Carl Philip O'Reilly.
The man who wears the gold, the man recognised by SWAF Nation International as the 24/7 champion, our legend.
Mr. Moneybags, Rich Holt.
Daylight Robbery, Rob James.
Bebop, I'm Rob Steedley.
Ross Pooper Scooper Cooper.
Rue the Day, Rari O'Brien Kelly.
The man with the scoops, Sean.
The Big Boss Man, Security James.
Like that one. And hear me roar, Sirutulayan as your Hall of Fame class for Friday the 13th of June 2025.
You're all cursed now.
You going to watch Friday the 13th tonight?
No.
Why not?
I'm going to LCD Sound System because I'm cool. Go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to see if you want to get a shout out on this very show. And also, tomorrow we'll have episode 3 and 4 of the Rise and Heavy Fall of the Nexus. On YouTube, we're going to have episode 3, which is our review of SummerSlam 2010.
Sure is.
One of the more painful shows in our lifetimes. And over on Patreon, right after, you can go watch episode 4, which is Night of Champions, which is dumb.
Yeah, it's a bit dumb. I think it was perfectly reviewed in one of the write-ups we read, which is like a good but forgettable show.
Yes, which shouldn't be the case when you've just had one of the hottest angles over the summer of the Nexus. Anyway, go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk for that.
I think to kick things off on the Dynamite review is I said on yesterday's WrestleTalk news, hey, I'm glad that this is the last 4-hour show. Super looking forward to next week's show being 2 hours. Lol, joke's on me. I clearly missed the announcement. Next week's show is 2.5 hours.
Yes, it's Grand Slam in Mexico.
But Raw's 2.5 hours, and that doesn't feel long. I feel like that is actually the bowl that's right. Like that is the just right bowl, the bed that is just right.
45 minutes. That's the length of a wrestling show weekly.
I mean, I disagree ever so slightly on that. Like, while grand, and I think there's, I used to love the black and gold era of NXT when it was an hour long. I think that 2.5 hours, I think they found that nice sweet spot on Raw. Because it actually worked, but maybe it works for Raw because they've also got all of those ad breaks and stuff. But with this episode of Dynamite, and actually it was an episode of Collision as well, it's the same thing that happened last week, which was there's a 2-hour episode of Dynamite that's got a lot of really cool stuff on it. Then we go into an episode of Collision that is just a bunch of matches, and those matches are good, but when you watch them directly after the Dynamite, man, it can feel like, I want to see Bandito versus Beast Mortis, but kind of not right now because I've had I'm really full up on wrestling right now. And then 8 lads come out for an 8-man tag, and then you're like, I'm so full of wrestlers, and I can't bear to watch Kyle O'Reilly do really good wrestling because I've watched really good wrestling now for 3.5 hours.
Yeah, Paragon, unfortunately, now just look like white. It's white noise. It's the visual equivalent of white noise to me. Like, oh, okay, the show's gone into autopilot now.
Yeah.
The show itself, just to do the ratings, did 597,000 viewers, which is down from last week, and a 0.17 in the 18 to 49.
Which is, I think, it's either the same or it's slightly up from last week. Like that's going up against the sports. Good result.
NBA Finals.
Yeah,
but from what I heard, it's not like a thrilling NBA Finals.
No.
There'll be competition, but not crazy bad. But that is also why we've got these 4-hour blocks, quite annoyingly.
Exactly, yeah. This is to compensate for the sports. And actually, if you're going to put on a 4-hour show, probably not going to see massive.
Well, that's just for the 2-hour Dynamite.
Yeah,
block.
and you're not going to see. It's going to be even worse than for the Collision block, I'd imagine, which is, I think is to be expected.
But there's just talk about the Dynamite 2 hours.
And that's what I was going to say. Yeah, like last week, I'm very, very full of all this wrestling, but this week's Dynamite portion I thought was awesome.
Yeah, it opened with an incredible Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland match. And probably like an even better angle afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's their rematch from last June's Forbidden Door, and it's like, Will is trying to convince Swerve that Hangman is the guy to take the belt off Moxley and save AEW, and Swerve, please don't stop him. So they Swerve tweaks his knee, so Will starts working over the knee. Ospreay misses a hidden blade and he hits a turnbuckle, hurts his arm. Swerve starts working over the arm, and then Ospreay goes for a one-arm Styles clash, but Swerve reverses it into a what, Luke?
A dead eye.
A dead eye, which is Hangman's move.
And it's, it follows on from Hangman Page using Swerve's moves at the last pay-per-view as well.
It's really, really great storytelling through physicality. But then they just have this insane 5-minute section.
Insanely good match.
And Ospreay teases the Tiger Driver, but that sort of moral hesitation he sometimes has lets Swerve reverse. Then all of a sudden, Excalibur goes, well, they've only got a minute left. I was like, what?
Yeah, it was after the Tiger Driver. It was just before the Tiger Driver. I remember I was like, I think we might be near the time limit on this match. The match feels like it's gone for a long time. But they didn't do what they've previously done in AEW, where they've announced 1 minute left, because that kind of makes the crowd realize, it's going to go to a time limit draw then, or more likely it's going to go to a time limit draw. They didn't do that this time around. All of a sudden, the bell just rang and it ended, and you got this great sort of crowd reaction for it, which is the desired reaction they were after as well.
Boos,
yeah, because it's booing. We didn't get to finish our match. I'll go into why I think this was quite a genius move in a little bit. But what I love about going to the time limit draw in particular is Will could have won that match if he hit that Tiger Driver, but he hesitated. Swerve possibly could have won that match when he was going for that Swerve stop, but he slipped when he was going up to do it. And it's those crucial seconds that cost both guys getting this win, which is what leads into the time limit draw.
I love the draw. I love the way they eked out the draw. What I don't love is AEW's inconsistent time reminders. Can they not just every match 10 minutes?
Yeah. Which is how they do it in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
And then every match, they always get a time call, so it doesn't give away the ending when you're like 5 minutes remaining. Oh, I wonder why I'm saying 5 minutes remaining.
Because I haven't done previously.
Yeah. So just make it consistent, Tony.
Yeah.
Just have matches do a 10-minute time call, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25, 30.
That is what it needs to be. I think it's almost the horse is probably bolted. I mean, you can start doing it now.
They did rankings out of nowhere.
Okay, so great example, Ollie, because you know what they'll do? They'll do it for a month, then stop doing it.
But I don't want I'm imagining my suggestion, if they take it on, they'll do it consistently and good.
Yeah, okay, but that is a big ask. That is a big ask for any wrestling company. It is a massive ask for AEW to do one thing consistently.
But surely they tell storylines over 5 years.
Yeah, but that's a different thing,
Can they not just tell the person at ringside, look, here, let me explain this to you. Here is the clock app on your phone. When the match starts, depending if it's a 20-minute, a 30-minute, a 60-minute time limit, enter that number into the countdown thing and press it. And every time it hits these intervals, just sound the mic. 10 minutes remaining.
Yeah, I mean,
that's easy.
I don't know. It sounds like a lot of work. But anyway, so the reason why I thought this was a very, very good finish in terms of how to play the crowd, because I think a lot of people, I don't like the consistent DQ finishes that we're getting weekly on Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, because it just feels like, well, we don't want to beat either guy, so we're just going to do a DQ finish. Jey Uso had 3 DQ finishes in the 5 televised match he had before he lost the title.
Or have 4 ways.
Or have 4 ways.
You don't have to beat Rhea Ripley ever.
We can just put an Ivy Nile in there to get pinned. We're going to look like right mugs when Ivy Nile qualifies through Queen of the Ring next week. But what I liked about this is that, crowd boo the finish. Of course they're going to. If you do a time limit draw, you're always going to have a crowd boo the finish. So then Swerve gets on the mic and he's like, no. We're going to find out who the winner is. We're going to go into overtime. Crowd cheer because, we're going to go into overtime. We're going to find the finish to this match. And then you have the Death Riders come out and stop that. Transferring the boos that you got for the finish of the match, which could be argued on AEW for booking a time limit draw, and transferring it to the heel group for ruining not getting a finish.
We're saying the same thing. We're in agreement. I totally agree with all of that. Just standardize the time calls. That's all I'm saying.
And I totally hear what you're saying, but it sounds like a lot of work.
It's an impossible thing to...
It's such an impossible thing to ask.
How did New Japan do it then?
Oh, well, they're quite a technologically advanced nation.
They're not. I've been there. They have carbon physical copies of everything.
Yeah.
It took me 20 minutes to get a train ticket in Tokyo. Because they had to fill out like a little written form and put it in a filing cabinet.
Exactly. So look at the admin they're going through to there.
They've probably got a clock.
Which means they could probably, they'll have like 5 different clocks set up so that everyone's like, I know exactly when these things are going. I can make the announcements. I haven't got time for that in AEW. There's a Warner Brothers merger going on. There's bigger fish to fry.
This angle afterwards was fantastic, though. So Death Riders are out there, but it was a distraction for Swerve because the Bucks appear, still furthering this idea that they're in cahoots with Hangman, sort of playing mind games with Swerve. And they handcuff Swerve to the ring ropes, they super kick Nana, and they put on Swerve's own limited edition trainer things, these sneakers with the thumbtacks in the bottom. They go to do a super kick party on Swerve, but Ospreay, out of nowhere, dives in and sacrifices his own head.
Takes the bullet.
And the selling was great. He just like went right down. The doctors are on him immediately. They've covered his face with a rag. Hopefully it was worked blood. Mm-hmm. Not the only worked blood on this show, because you could see like the blood seeping through the cloth.
Yeah.
It really felt like he was blinded.
He also had like a bloody nose from the pretty much the opening bit of this match.
Yeah. And then the Bucks saw that and were like,
that's not what we wanted.
Okay. And they backed off. I loved all the dynamics here.
Damn, we kicked Adam's friend. That's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to kick his enemy.
Yeah, so this was really good, and a great way to further, I think, probably the best story in wrestling right now.
Yeah, I'm absolutely loving this.
Then we've got Renee interviewing Okada backstage about the Kenny match, and Don Callis walks in and is like, why is Okada in this match? Because it's a champion versus champion match, and he's a champion.
Well, his point,
Fletcher and Takeshita.
His point is more, why are my guys not champions? They should be the champions. I thought this was a lovely bit of red herringness.
Okada calls him a bitch.
Yeah.
MVP's backstage. The Hurt Syndicate have beaten up Commander. That's to cover a legit injury. He was meant to be in the match. Mystico beat Blake Christensen. It's a showcase match, really, for Mystico.
Yeah.
Didn't do much showcasing.
No. This was just... Yeah, this was not much of a match. He just quickly beat him, and then that was it.
Well, I thought Christensen did really well. I thought, are we trying to get over Blake Christensen here? But the idea is Mystico is a legend, and that's really where the aura comes from. Hurt Syndicate come out after that, and MJF brings back his Patriot gimmick.
He does, yeah, from last year in the lead up to All In. And because like he's going to Grand Slam Mexico, he's going to Arena Mexico, which last time he did it, he had that Patriot gimmick back then as well. So it's a good time to bring this back for one show.
And he called Mystico, who will be facing next Wednesday, a sloppy Sin Cara.
Yeah, you're still just sloppy Sin Cara. That's all I see you as, sloppy Sin Cara.
Which is a great gag. He goes to rip off the mask, but assorted baby faces make the save from last week. That's Speedball Mike Bailey, LA Knight, and Mascarada.
Kevin Knight.
What did I say?
LA Knight.
I've just written Knight down here, and I auto-populated the rest of the name.
It's because you don't really care about AEW. You just see WWE superstars wherever you look.
It'll be such a better match. LA Knight was in this. So this is a trios match. Really good stuff, as always. I mean, all the matches are good.
Yeah. The best thing about this for me, though, is MJF has changed up his gear since joining the Hurt Syndicate, and he now wears MVP's gear. That is such a great little detail of this like smarmy, like this suck up guy who's like, yeah, we're best friends. Like, I did the ball in bit as well. That's wonderful.
And it's MVP ultimately who helped MJF get the win. Hit Speedball with the cane behind the referee's back, and MJF gets the winning pin.
Yeah,
there's probably this thing of like, will Bobby or Shelton eventually turn on Max? I don't know, but is there a world where MVP and MJF pair off?
You can't. You don't want to split. You
don't want to.
The whole deal of them wanting to leave WWE is because they wanted to do the Hurt business.
I suppose usually this is a build to Max betraying the person he's seemingly fallen in love with.
I think it's going to be one of those heel turns where someone just turns more heel than the others do.
Yeah, because when MJF bloodies MVP, be quite emotional.
I think so too, yeah. Also, egg on my face, you want to talk about AEW's consistency? I read in here, well, at least we've got Dorada to take the pin. And then it was Speedball Mike Bailey. What was Dorada there for then?
I thought, well, to be brilliant. I thought he was great in this match.
I'm being facetious.
So the Hurt Syndicate keep beating up the trios team afterwards. MJF's trying to take off Dorada's mask.
He does.
Oh, yeah, he
He's
does,
successful.
doesn't he? To build the Mexico match next week against Mystico. Mystico runs down, briefly gets him in an armbar, and then scampers off.
It's good MJF. Well, he proved his point. MJF tapped out immediately. It's like, prove my point, off I go. I embarrassed you.
I know Mystico's a legend. He has one of the least hype entrance themes I've ever heard.
So I don't know if this is his CMLL entrance theme. Because there have been people talking about Jose the assistant posted being like, why don't you just use his entrance theme? Because people go nuts for it. But I don't know, because I'm not that au fait with CMLL. I'm only judging that on what Jose the assistant's saying. But if this is, I'm judging that on what Jose the assistant's saying, and my personal bias is like, this is not a hype theme song.
Hangman Page is meant to come out for a promo next, but he's thrown out of the entrance tunnel, gagged with tape. His arms are taped behind his back. The Death Riders having, this was set up earlier in the show quite coolly, because you could see the Death Riders walking off after Hangman in the opening shots.
Taz, when they dragged him out, said, this is a new low for the Death Riders. They tried to murder Bryan Danielson. This is a new low, Taz. They've just handcuffed him.
I was sort of hoping for the epic Mox promo that we know he can cut. And this was just more, I want you focused, become the man everyone wants you to become.
But this is what I loved about it, because I think that promo can still come from Moxley. But this was effectively the same promo that Will Ospreay cut to him after Will beat him in the Owen Hart final. But it's coming from the heel. It's coming from like, these fans need you to win this title. Mox's whole thing with the Death Riders is getting people to step up their game. If you don't want to be here, get out. We haven't got time for you here. We're changing the way that wrestling works. So he's doing a hype promo for Page, but it's a heel promo at the same time. It was a really nice bit of work.
Hangman headbutts him, and then the Ops run down for the save. And Hangman screams that he'll ride into death itself to take that title. And then he just grabbed a chair and ran after them.
Yeah.
You never see if he catches up, but yeah, Hangman's intensity is unmatched in this business right now.
Yeah, I mean, I will say for 4 hours worth of television, WWE, it's interference, it's DQs. With AEW, it's runs down for the save.
Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford then took on a returning Ty Mello and Anna Jay after the angle last week. Tay Mello's first match in 2 years.
Over 2 years, I believe. And it looked like she hadn't missed a step either.
No, she was good. And then the finish was sort of mostly focused on Bayne getting her over as a monster as usual. But Anna Jay gets a sleeper on Bayne, which let Mello get the winning pin on Ford. Right result with her coming back.
Yeah, fun match.
But yeah, if Bayne and Ford, they feel like the most coherent tag team in this division. I believe you. I think that they really are trying to get going a women's tag division. I feel like they're losing a lot.
They won last week, didn't they?
Did they?
Yeah.
They did the angle.
Oh, no, they did the angle last week, wasn't it? I think which means they must have won the last time, because they
lost to the pay-per-view.
They lost the pay-per-view, and then they lost the pay-per-view, then beat Harley Cameron and Anna Jay in the rematch in the street fight, and then they lost them here.
Beat up Anna Jay last week,
means that they'll probably beat them next time.
It's
50-50 booking.
Then we get. I mean, if the opening match wasn't on the show, this would have been the best thing. Incredible recap package using all the New Japan footage, an epic voiceover guy. Yeah, it didn't have Chapel Roan's Pink Pony Club. I don't know. I've not seen that video.
That's for Hangman Page.
It's like 5-7 minutes long. All of Okada and Omega's feud. From Omega joining the Bullet Club to their first match through to the fourth.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's one of those things where you sort of see over time when you read comments of there might be viewers watching this show who weren't there at the time. Like they weren't here, they weren't watching wrestling when this was happening. So I really hope that this video package gets across just how exciting this time felt as a wrestling fan, and how each new time they announced this, because it was over like an 18-month period, each time they announced a new match, it was like, oh, there's another one. We're getting another one of those matches. And they just slowly built to that incredible conclusion, what we thought was conclusion at Dominion. And I really hope this video package got that across, because this gave me like goosebumps. This proper transported me back to me and you in the t-shirt wall days. Like one of the first like proper before we were podcasting together about wrestling, but we were doing another movie podcast, and we kind of didn't talk about any other movie stuff. We was like, did you see Wrestle Kingdom?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Because that was the first match that they had, and we just talked about that. Talked about how like it's all built around this idea that he can kick out the Rainmaker, but he didn't hit the one-winged angel and all this sort of stuff. And oh man, it was just such an exciting time.
And Kevin Kelly on commentary. And the main event segment of Dynamite was the Okada-Omega contract signing. Okada comes out alone, and I was like, is he not with the Elite anymore? What is the situation?
So he was with them like a couple of weeks ago. He was with them in the lead up to Anarchy in the Arena, but then he wasn't in the Anarchy in the Arena match, and there hasn't really been seen on them since. It's another, talk about consistency with AEW. Sometimes you just leave factions and you don't do angles.
But usually it's Roosh doing that. And Okada's more focused on. So he comes out alone. Contract signings are a bit copy and paste usually, but I thought there was a reason for this because they unveiled the new unified belt, the AEW Unified Championship. It's got oval plates.
Yeah, and Fightful Select reporting that the plan for this belt is another top title. This is a second world title belt. This is not a mid-card or an upper mid-card belt. This is another world title level belt.
That's what they always say.
We'll come back to that in 6 months' time.
When Mark Briscoe has it.
Also, what a lineage for the Continental Championship. It's Eddie Kingston and Okada, and that's it.
Kenny says almost 7 years to the day that they had their last match. Let's leave it all in the ring one more time. One final time, actually. And they shake hands. So it felt like a respectful thing.
I totally bought into everything. I got so suckered in by this angle because they did the angle earlier in the evening when the Don Callis family walked up. We're like, no, we don't like you. It should be one of our guys. And Okada calls him bitch. I wrote my notes. That's felt like a babyface turn. He's not been with the Bucks. Mm-hmm. This is like they want to do this as a babyface thing, not heel Okada versus babyface Kenny. This is a respectful babyface thing. And Kenny cuts that promo being like, let's do this one more time. And they shake hands. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Don Callis comes out. And I've written in my notes here, I think we're going to get a tag team match player. I think we're getting Okada and Omega versus Fletcher and Takeshita to build to the match. So like, man, it's like, it's very telegraphed, but that's a really exciting match to do. And I'm here for it. And then boom, Okada twats Omega. And I'm like, I cannot believe I bought into this. He's now sided with Don Callis.
Yeah. Kenny shouts at Don saying, look, I know all your tricks. And Don goes, well, you don't know this one. Turns out neither did Luke Owen. Okada hits Kenny with the belt. The crowd chant that he sold out. And I was like, he was already a heel.
But he turned babyface earlier in the night.
Turned babyface 15 minutes ago. And then Don gives Okada a baton and to hit Kenny in the diverticulitis. He hit him right in the diverticulitis. And Kenny's insides explode. He pops a blood capsule. Another, Okada hits a flying elbow on Kenny on the stretcher in the ring and a second one on the outside while everyone's trying to stop it happening. And Kenny just, I don't know, sinks a whole bottle of blood capsules and goes vomiting blood like he's in a horror movie.
Yeah, what body part did you sell, Kenny? The diverticulitis, Bill. The diverticulitis.
I sold the inside of me. But it was really effective. As goofy as it was, I thought it was a really hot angle.
I have never written the word diverticulitis so much as I have in the last 6 months because Kenny keeps selling it in matches. So I keep on trying. He sells the diverticulitis.
And then Okada and Don just run out the arena and hop in a car.
Yeah. And I was expecting it to be like, tune into Impact and you'll find out what we're doing next.
Yeah, I felt that.
But yeah, they dusted off Alex Marvez for this bit as well. Found him in the club. How you go? Checks after them to an interview. Renee's not around.
That was disgusting. What did you do? And that's it. That's Marvez for the year.
But then they cut to ringside. They've now changed over commentators, and it's Tony Schiavone and it's Nigel McGuinness. Tony's like, it's one of the most disgusting acts we've seen here. I can't quite believe. And there's Kenny coughing up blood and stuff, and then. You know it's all about the boom! Now comes Adam Cole. You callous prick. He's hurt, man.
Yeah. I don't know about you. When I now hear it's all about the boom, which used to be one of my most favourite lines, and I'm excited for what's going to happen next. I'm like, okay. I just sort of tuned out of the next 2 hours.
It's the sign. It may as well replace the Collision theme song.
Yes.
It really did signal. And here come all the Collision lads now for the second half of this show.
How many Paragon
Don
Callis matches can I have? And the answer is 2.
2 again.
So it started with Max Caster versus Carl Fletcher. I thought Caster might win this.
Anthony Bowens.
Have I done it again?
Yeah, you've done it again.
Why do I keep doing that? Because I love Max Caster's gimmick right now. Anthony Bowens. I thought he might win this one, even when I
What
thought...
do you do? What?
Oh, it's Pride Month. I thought he's lost a lot with his new singles push thing. I thought he could get...
It's Fletcher Cole at the pay-per-view.
Or it could have been a triple threat. But yeah, that's what it ended up being. Bowens got given... I've written Bowens later on. Bowens was given a lot. Lance took out Billy Gunn on the outside. Slight distraction for Bowens, and that allowed Fletcher to get the win.
Yeah.
CMLL had a segment hyping next week's show with Atlantis and Atlantis Jr., the legend, but FTR are real living legends.
Yeah, they took out the Rock and Roll Express. They made Nigel McGuinness wish that it was 2002, the last time that he was relevant. And Daniel Garcia's even considering retirement. Expect to see his OnlyFans link soon.
And he said Copeland has just been sitting at home staring at a wall.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first proper foreshadowing of Copeland's coming back in the next week or so.
You think he'll be back before All In?
Well, I always thought him and Christian versus FTR, but there's no way they can hotshot that storyline.
No, I don't think they can get that done in time. Not for All In.
Copeland and Garcia?
Yeah.
Who's Garcia tagging with this pay-per-view?
It's Garcia's probably the answer, right?
There's a fight, but of course, Adam Cole makes the save. The Callis family run down to beat them all up, but then the Hounds of Hell come out, babyfaces stand tall, and Atlantis just chases after Dax out the arena.
Yeah. And it's going to lead to a 12-man tag on next week's show.
Let's get everyone on the card.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to work Arena Mexico. I think they got a discount on booking a bulk hotel. Big Cass and Brian Keith are backstage. Anthony Henry and JD Drake of the Workhorsemen seem to set up a match later.
Sounds very Collision.
Yeah. Julia Hart versus Tony Storm with Mercedes on commentary. I really liked because it was Sky Blue attacking Tony before the match, and then Tony was just sort of sold for Julia Hart the entire time.
Yeah, so Storm had distracted herself during the entrance with Monet's meat. So it allowed Blue to kind of take advantage of that situation. I very much enjoyed this.
The Monet's meat looked better cooked this time.
It was.
It was proper pink in the middle, but I prefer my steaks sky blue.
Hello!
It's a pun about how to cook meat.
Although I've not my favourite way to eat meat. A friend of mine, when he would have a steak, his partner had their steaks very differently. His was on the plate. Hers was just out the packet on the plate.
Oh, yeah. Totally raw.
Totally raw.
Oh my god.
That was the way that they had their steaks.
Bloody hell.
Yep, literally.
So Tony fought through this, got the roll up for the win, and then Mercedes gets in the ring during Tony's celebration, kind of rubbed her face on Tony's face.
No, she was whispering something into her ear.
Yeah, I saw it, but then it looked like she rubbed her face, like they rubbed cheeks. I don't know.
Pride Month.
And then threw Tony Storm down. Mina ran down for the save, but Monet beat up Mina. So I expect a Monet-Mina match, maybe?
Yeah, well, we're getting next week because we're getting... Monet tweeted during the match that she's challenged Zeuxitz for the CMLL Women's Championships. That match takes place next week.
They had an angle later on as well where she took out Monet. There was a trios match. Willow got the pin on Taya Valkyrie. It was Willow, Ishii, Mark Briscoe versus MXM and Taya Valkyrie. But the more interesting thing here was Chris Statlander watching on again from backstage.
Yeah, and then she left.
And the camera catches up with her, and she's like, no, I'm not getting back with Willow. That's done.
I'm moving on. Because she's moved on from me, so I'm going to move on from her.
Which feels like they're definitely getting back together.
Yeah.
But then Wheeler Yuta, interestingly, her old best friend faction, spoke to her about... I mean, I don't see Statlander joining the Death Riders.
Well, I don't think Marina Shafir does either, based on the stare that she gave Wheeler Yuta.
But if it's Chris Statlander and Marina Shafir, there's another women's tag team.
It's a good shout, actually. It's a good tag team.
Bandido took on the Beast Mortos. Bandido is so cool. They got a decent amount of time here. Bandido hit that Spanish fly power slam off the top rope to get the win. This is when Mercedes got the CMLL women's title segment backstage. Then Renee is outside Ospreay's medical room.
Good. Right, we're back to the Dynamite stuff. Lovely.
Hangman goes to check on him, but the Bucks stop him and we're helping you because now you can bring the title from Moxley to the Elite.
It's a really fascinating little dynamic here because I don't think the Bucks fully have thought out their plan, which is they are currently working with the Death Riders, But also, they are trying to plot a way for Hangman Page to win the title from the Death Riders. So it's like, I don't think the Young Bucks have fully thought this plan through, and the Death Riders are not dumb enough to not see through that they are trying to manipulate them. But it's this really cool thing of like, we paved your way to win the Owen, and now all you got to do is go win that title at All In, and you can bring the title back to the Elite. And Hangman's like, I'm not in the Elite. Like, we're not together at the moment. And in the background, you can see Nana just sort of poke his head round the door. I think he did it like one too early, because then he did it again towards the end. And then the camera sort of follows through to Nana, and he's like, I heard everything that he just said. And he sort of reveals he wasn't the only one. Swerve Strickland was in the room, and he heard everything that Hangman had to pay, which was Hangman saying, we are not working together. I do not want to win the world title for you guys.
And stay out of my business, and stay out of Swerve's business.
Oh, great line from Hangman Page.
And a kiss.
It was a great delivery from him as well, because it was stay out of my business, stay out of Will's business, stay out of Swerve's business. Yeah. Really, really good. Like, it's that begrudging respect that maybe he does have for him.
Excellent work.
Loved it.
Tekla then took on Queen Amanata after their angle last week. I thought this was decent. It went much longer than last week's sort of squash match for Tekla.
Yeah. So I don't think Amanata just wanted to lose based on the fact that she was stiffing the hell out of her during this match, which I loved.
Yeah. And that they were both working the camera as well. Whenever they hit a move, they'd look right down the lens and like wink or go, but ultimately it was, Tekla didn't look like she kicked out right at the finish just in time, which is unfortunate. Second debuting star this week to do that after NXT and the main event there. But Amanata hit the stomp, another kick out, and Tekla won with her spear, then submission.
Yeah. But it was a good match. I mean, I said this in last week's show. They'd only had one proper match and one squash match within 4 hours. Here we had 3 proper matches. That is a positive step in a right direction. But we've been down this path with AEW before. You're asking for consistency. Let's see how we get on.
What do you want more? Consistent time calls or more women's matches?
The more women's matches, I would say, or like more TV time dedicated to women's wrestling.
So then it got the announcements. There's a huge 10-man tag for next week. So it's the Bucks and Death Riders versus the Ops, Will Ospreay and Swerve.
Yeah,
that's insane. Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian got a little package backstage of the Best of the Super Juniors highlights.
I actually really like this because it's Nick Wayne being like, Christian's not here this week, but he's put together a video for you to celebrate your time in the Best of the Super Juniors. And I was fully expecting it to be like all the losses because he didn't win the tournament. But it was really putting over Nick Wayne. And then Kip Sabian has this great line where it's like, look, I don't know where you'd be if it wasn't for Christian. And it's a wonderful line because it is. Look what being with Christian has led you to. That can also, and Nick had that look of like, where would I be? Because Christian wasn't there during the tournament. And that video package just made me look really good when he wasn't there.
A replay of the Okada angle, and Tony updated us that Omega had been taken to the hospital. And of course, as usual, the main event was a version of Paragon and a version of the Callis family. Garcia was with Paragon, and Takeshita, Alexander, Hechicero, and Lance Archer were representing the family. Very fun. Carl takes a Roppongi Vice on the outside. Archer chokes him out. Takeshita clobbers Strong, I believe, and Alexander pins him.
You got more notes than I've got. I've written DCF win.
And it'll be a 12-man tag next week of the Don Callis family and FTR versus Cole, Garcia, King, and I've just written some luchadors. I didn't catch all of them.
Because it's both of the Atlantises and then the other luchadors that ran down during that brawl earlier.
We've had a trios match last week. We had an 8-man tag this week, and it will be a 12-man tag on Grand Slam Mexico.
I mean, we've got Blood and Guts coming up soon, so we could do a 16-man Blood and Guts match.
I feel like this is a maths problem. And what will it be in 20 weeks' time? It'll be a 52-man on 52-man tag.
I love it.
Which actually we got in All In one year on the pre-show. Should we get into our final story?
We thought at the end of the show talking about this Goldberg news, because looking at the comments on yesterday's video, no one wants it.
But he's one of the greatest of all time.
I don't think that's a controversial statement that I made.
No, as even his comeback in 2016 was awesome. Like those 3 matches with Lesnar, we love. Like each one was just mind-blowingly new. Then I guess if you've only been familiar with him since then, and then the next thing you see him do is, well, take the belt off Owens.
Yeah.
Then he takes the belt off of
Yeah.
Bray. So it's like, oh, a Saudi show. Goldberg will win the belt.
Yeah, I totally get it from that aspect of it. Like, you may not like Goldberg in his last few runs that he's had, because it has just been, he comes in, wins the title, disappears for a bit, then drops the title and disappears for a longer period of time. Totally get that. But he is an absolute legend of this sport. Like, he is he can be considered one of the greatest of all time. You don't talk about draws and stuff. He is an unequivocal, like, draw.
Yeah. He's on the WCW, like, Mount Rushmore.
Absolutely he is.
And I guess, like, when you say, like, greatest of all time, maybe some people are like, but the guy can barely work. Which is true. He's very limited in the ring. Yeah. But in terms of star power and charisma, yeah, he's one of the biggest stars of the Attitude Era.
Yeah. And he, like, you know, when WCW was in its dying days, he was a bigger star than Hogan became. Like, he was absolutely massive for that company, and it became sort of a legendary figure within wrestling. I don't think it was out of pocket to say he could be considered one of the greatest of all time.
And this is why. This is Luke's pitch. You want him to beat Gunther at Saturday night's main event. The retirement to Swerve. One last run.
Yeah, we're actually going to be building towards Cena Goldberg for, like, their final match. I mean, like, if you're going to consider Cena one of the greatest of all time, Goldberg did more moves than Cena did.
Yeah, that's fair.
And did them better as well, I would argue.
Yeah, and it's because it's much more fun to watch 5 moves happen in a 5-minute match than 5 moves happen across 25 minutes.
Absolutely.
Although Okada and Omega is pretty much 5 moves.
Hey.
I could watch that for an hour.
I know, well, yeah. It's very well worked, those 5 moves. Rainmaker, drop kick. So this is the story that Goldberg's coming back. Apparently he's coming back on Raw this coming Monday, and PW Insider have updated that report, or added to that report to be like, he's going to be on Raw moving forward, because we're building towards that July 12th Saturday night's main event. Sean Ross Sapp's been saying that's been the plan for a while. Mm-hmm. It's in Atlanta, not exactly his hometown, but it's WCW hotbed.
Spiritual
hometown. So Goldberg can have his last match there, going up against Gunther for the World Heavyweight title, which will explain why Gunther won the belt from Jay last Monday on Raw.
So when we're all like, well, I think we're mostly talking about what's next for Jey Uso following the world title loss. Seems like he might be going into a New Day feud with Jimmy Uso, which feels like a big step down considering the focus on the tag division as of late.
It's kind of happened with Kofi when he was WWE champion, then lost it. It was like, back to the tag division with you, son.
Yeah. But if you ask me, he is a far better tag wrestler than he is a singles wrestler.
Yeah.
So it is the best place for him if you want great matches. But we didn't really talk about, well, what's next for Gunther? We were thinking, is it a babyface turn to go against Seth Rollins? But no, the next month, the first feud of Gunther's new title reign will be against Goldberg. And I feel like one of the disappointing parts of Gunther's World Heavyweight title run last year was that we didn't really get that big classic feud.
Yeah.
We got Jey Uso over and over again, but that had its issues. Gunther was mostly a background player in other feuds like Finn Balor and Damian Priest.
Yeah.
I think kicking off this feud with, I'm going to retire Goldberg, is where we should be hitting our levels.
It's also a fascinating 2025 for Gunther, because it'll have been match with Jay, a match with Pat McAfee, a match with Jay, a match with a match with Goldberg.
Yeah. On paper, that doesn't seem like the best run.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping Goldberg is, retiring Goldberg in Atlanta, Saturday night's main event, so it will have one of the larger audiences in WWE, because just the nature of things right now, Raw on Netflix, pay-per-views, they don't get the same amount of viewership as these Saturday night main event specials generally.
And I tell you what, do you know who's going to make... make Goldberg amazing? Do you know who's going to make Goldberg look amazing? Gunther. Because Gunther is one of this industry's best sellers. Like, he's so great at this. It's one of my favorite things about Walter back in the day and Gunther now, is that he is not afraid to, as a big wrestler, to sell fear and to sell peril and things like that. Like, his matches he used to have with Will Ospreay were so great that he's like got this massive size advantage, but he can make Ospreay look like he's the exact same size as him. Going in the ring with Goldberg, he's going to sell that spear, the jackhammer, all of this stuff. He's going to make Goldberg look fantastic. And it's only going to go 5 minutes, 6 minutes maybe.
Well, Goldberg has been trying to get into shape, but it seems like he's had quite a few training injuries and setbacks over this year because he announced his retirement match in October last year, I think. So it's, hopefully he's okay to go and he doesn't get any more injuries and that he can be protected in the match. How does Bret Hart play into this?
He doesn't. He was there. He was the instigator of the angle.
Does he help Goldberg?
No.
Does he help Gunther?
No, I tell you what, it would be amazing because that would be a very Triple H thing to book. It's like, yeah, Bret, I've got a pitch for you. You're going to help Goldberg.
Roll your eyes at me.
Exactly. Roll your eyes at me, Mania, will you? Yeah. I've got an idea for you. I've got a pitch for you.
And Bret will go, sure, boss, and he'll go down and he'll phone that interference in.
He will do it so underhand. Yeah.
What's the secret sign that the wrestler's not into it? It's brushing the shoulder. He'll just be there like this, rolling his eyes. And that's how Goldberg wins the belt. But of course, this is one of the larger bits of counter-programming because that's Saturday night's main event. Goldberg's retirement match, probably we're building to, against Gunther for the World Heavyweight title in WCW's spiritual home of Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's the same day as AEW All In.
Yeah, it's one of 3 shows that WWE are running against All In over that weekend. And the idea of Saturday night's main event was to try and stop people buying the pay-per-view. And now it can be also stopping people buying the tickets. NXT running against it is to stop people buying the pay-per-view. That's to hurt pay-per-view buy rates because you want to watch the NXT show live instead of watching All In. And yeah, Evolution is another one to stop people buying tickets for it because you could go tickets to Texas and go to see the stadium show, or you could just go and watch our all-women show. Do you hate women? Don't you want to see them succeed? Surely you want to go buy those tickets, right? AEW All In, I think it's about 30,000. They had 1,500 tickets over the last week. That apparently has been credited to Okada Omega's announcement. So we'll see how they get on, but it's not looking like the big 80,000 they had for the first All In at Wembley Stadium.
Which it was never going to come close to. 30,000 is still one of their biggest audiences in the United States, if not the biggest. And it sounds like they've got the 3rd biggest gate in company history.
When you have those high ticket prices.
Well, a couple of years ago, before the Triple H boom, pre-pandemic and a couple of years after the pandemic, WWE was doing 15,000 for their big shows around WrestleMania. It's only recently that it's you can do 45,000 for a SummerSlam or something crazy like that. It's a really good number. It's just not the best number in wrestling history. They're a victim of their own success.
Yeah, it is always worth remembering that AEW, or one of the initial launches of AEW, was that first All-In show where the idea was no one else but WWE could sell 10,000 tickets for a thing, because no one since WCW had sold 10,000 tickets for a wrestling show, and All In did. But I think now, because that seems like such a small number, when people's only 30,000 tickets, put some F in. This whole thing was built around no one can do 10,000.
Well, I'm consider this the start of my official Goldberg One Last Run campaign.
No, it's not
I think
mine.
It's the time to do it.
It's not mine. Gunther beats him.
Who's next? Title's next. Let's get Goldberg one last run chance in the comments. Maybe that can be the secret word of today. Should we see what people commented on last week's episode? Of course, our secret task was to get ABBA references.
Yes. Some very good ones in there.
So from Dana, we've got, this is over on Spotify. I enjoy AEW TV, but 4 hours of it, it's like, gimme a main event before midnight.
That's very good.
Mr. Grimes' one here is a labyrinth. There was one I missed. Until I reread it again earlier. Hey, lad, this is Mr. Grimes. Hey, lads, just want to say I'm always enjoying your content and it gets me through my days at work. I too have started watching AEW based on your reviews. Raw has felt a bit plodding recently, making me think, Mamma Mia, this show is slow, but I do like certain characters like Adam Pearce. Brosnan Reed is also another wrestler I like. So this is the one I missed. He's got Pierce Brosnan in 2 different sentences.
Yeah, but it's because he's also
the star of Mamma Mia.
But he spelt Adam Pearce wrong as your little visual cue that he's trying to set you up for a Bronham reference.
Mm-hmm. But not into this Jey Uso title reign. I assumed at Money in the Bank the tag match would have the winner take it all. But it's just a standard tag match. Keep up the good work. And my friend Charles, who's training to be a wrestler, who's actually become more of the annoying people in my life now, because now he's the biggest wrestling fan, and he's just constantly texting me and my mate Mike. Do love you really, Charles. So I used to work with him at Heat TV back in the 4Music days.
Cool.
Where our joint job was writing little celebrity news stories that would pop up on music television. So just as a little graphics box. So you had like 300 characters to work with to explain how Lady Gaga has just got in some controversy.
Is it pre-Twitter?
Yeah, pre-Twitter. Well, wait, no, sort of stolen from Twitter. And we would have competitions of who could do the best puns, who could get the most puns into 300 words. So he's very good at puns, and he had Waterloo Thez Press.
Very good.
And does your mother know that? It doesn't matter if your mother knows if you're out. I don't really get Katana Chance on me.
Well, Katana Chance, take a chance on me.
Yeah, but who's Katana?
Katana Chance from the Party Girls. It was her and Kaden Carter. She got released.
That's better. That's good. And the winner takes it all or nothing.
That's good. I like that one. Do you have any recommendations for this week?
I've got a little recommendation just for Mountainhead, which is the new sort of TV movie on HBO Max.
Oh, that's what you were telling me about the other day, right?
Yeah, it's from the creator of Succession. Very Succession-like Harold Pinter style drama, over 100 minutes. Very, very funny, about some tech bros sort of sitting out an AI apocalypse that they might have created. And the big selling point, I think, because you're like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty similar to Succession, and it's nowhere near as good as Succession, but it is a good time. It has Steve Carell in it.
Yeah, that's
So
the
I
draw.
think everyone just got sold on watching that show.
I've got to. Sorry, I was listening to you, but I was just trying to make sure I was getting the facts right about my recommendation for this week, because I discovered a podcast this week through something you and I have been talking about, an Instagram reel. I saw a clip of a podcast, and I was like, I want to go listen to the full episode of that, and so I did. And it was a video that was about diss tracks, like the history of music diss tracks, and it was specifically about songs written by rock stars about Courtney Love. And so they showed clips of the Foo Fighters' I'll Stick Around, which is a song. It's a rock diss track against Courtney Love. I Don't Owe You Anything. And also Gwen Stefani's Holla Back Girl is a shot at Courtney Love. Because Courtney Love did an interview where she was like, oh yeah, like I'm one of the smokers out the back. Gwen Stefani, she's one of the cheerleaders. Like she's one of those cheerleader types. And I was like, no, I'm not. But if you think that I am, I'm going to do a song where I'm a cheerleader. And there ain't no holla back girl. So they did a whole episode. It was about like the history of diss tracks in hip hop, based kind of around the Kendrick and Drake stuff, who I don't know. I'm afraid. I could not pick them out of a lineup. Never heard any of their songs. But I found the history of his diss tracks in hip hop supremely interesting. It was very, very cool. So the podcast is called One Song. And the album, the episode came out last summer, so you scroll to find it. But it's really good. But then halfway through the episode, it took a very different turn, an even more interesting turn, because they interview a guy who was a comedian who went viral by making an AI song about Kendrick and Drake's beef and their diss tracks and stuff. And that song went so viral.
Oh, yes.
It kind of made him a bit of a music star, and he's now got music record contracts. And then it got into a conversation about like, okay, well, who owns the rights to the song then? Because it's AI generated. Is it yours? Can someone remix that, and do you own it? And it's like, they kind of talk about it the guy who was just like, oh yeah, I was on my way to an AI film festival. And I'm like, I can't believe these people exist. Where he's like, oh yeah, I've just got like 1,000 AI songs. I'm like, I wouldn't brag about that. And he's like, I don't really have an interest in working in music. Don't make AI songs then. But I thought the conversation was very interesting as someone who is a little bit wary of AI music and AI films and all this sort of stuff. But he was just like, a fascinating little like bit that came in the middle of it. But also a really good history of diss tracks.
I'll check that out. It's really interesting. What should our secret word be for the troops? I think it should be something. Considering the Goldberg backlash, not backlash, but disagreement in the comments on your news, I think we should right this wrong. and let's get Goldberg should win. Goldberg beats Gunther. One last title run.
Yeah.
It's the World Heavyweight title.
Yeah. But like, you gotta try and make it look as sincere as possible.
Yeah. Points for like the most impassioned plea, like, I grew up with Goldberg. Like, this belt means so much to me.
I think if you really want to anger somebody, say like, the problem with these kids is that they don't understand how good he is. Really put over Goldberg's in-ring work. Like, what I don't think most people know about Goldberg is, man, the guy's a technical master in the ring. You should have seen that match he had, that one match he had in Japan. You know how people don't show the Hogan clip?
Yeah, in the 70s, Goldberg actually had a really serious Japanese wrestling run.
Yeah, but no one's seen it though.
Yeah, or he's working Australia in the 60s. Proper journeyman wrestler at the start of his career.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say like make up fake quotes from like actual legends, but like, Ric Flair once said about it.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining us here today. Please do go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Well, we've got a bonus episode of this show where we talk about R-Truth's career.
Yep.
Well, preemptively. We only came back the day after we recorded that. And of course, we've got the episodes 3 and 4 of the Rise and Fall of the Nexus going live tomorrow on Saturday. One publicly for all of you guys, but also episode 4 behind the paywall on Patreon. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke Owen, DAD. Jam that jam.
Jam that jam.